Founders Notes, Edition 30. Week 12. Ithaca, Founders Reflections. This was never about building. It was about becoming worthy of carrying what lasts. Prologue. The Harbour of Return. When the sea finally grows still and the noise of construction fades into memory, the founder stands before Ithaca, not as conqueror, but as witness. He realizes that what he sought all along was not wealth, nor mastery, nor recognition, but rhythm, the alignment of soul and structure, the quiet knowing that what he built will now live without him. Arrival is not an ending. It is an affirmation, a whisper that says, "You are ready." Because Ithaca was never a destination. She was the mirror waiting for the founder to become the kind of man who could look into her reflection without pride, without regret, and see only peace. The nature of arrival. Every journey worth walking ends not in possession, but in perspective. We spend years believing that endurance means reaching the shore. But endurance is not measured by how far you traveled. It is measured by how deeply you transformed along the way. In the founder's craft, arrival is not the completion of a company. It is the convergence of conscience and creation. It is the moment you can look upon your enterprise, its systems, its people, its governance, and see them breathing on their own, carrying the rhythm you once held alone. That is arrival, not control, but continuity. Not the end of effort, but the beginning of remembrance. Because in truth, Ithaca is not the island. It is the stillness within you when the building is done. The founder's relationship with Ithaca. Every founder walks two journeys, the one the world sees and the one only he can feel. The first is external, the milestones, the markets, the measurable achievements. The second is internal, the evolution from control to care, from doing to being, from fear to faith. The first journey ends with applause. The second ends with wisdom. But wisdom has its own architecture. It is built not of memory alone, but of understanding, that the true mark of mastery is not what you achieve in your presence, but what continues in your absence. To reach Ithaca is to learn that your work was never about you. You were simply the vessel, the temporary guardian of a rhythm meant to endure. And once you realize this, you no longer need to hold your creation. You simply need to bless it. The architecture of continuity. Legacy without structure is sentiment. Structure without rhythm is bureaucracy. To build Ithaca into others is to weave both form and feeling into the living architecture of your enterprise. Because organizations, like people, must be taught not just to perform, but to remember. This is the architecture of continuity. Rituals that remember. Create ceremonies that reawaken intention. The Founder's Charter reread. The vow renewed. The story retold. Rituals ensure that memory is not dependent on individuals. They turn remembrance into rhythm. systems that hold soul, design processes that carry values within their code. Let your dashboards ask, not only what did we achieve, but why did we choose this path? Embed reflection, where most systems embed reaction. Stewards that protect, not possess. Train successors not to imitate your style, but to preserve your integrity. Teach them that stewardship is not ownership, it is care in motion. Their task is not to extend your image, but to deepen your vow. Governance that breathes. Governance must evolve as rhythm, not as rigidity. It must question at the same pace as innovation, but remember at the same depth as tradition. True governance is not about control. It is about conscience sustained through structure. This is how you embed Ithaca into others. You design for remembrance, not reliance. You teach rhythm, not repetition. The founder's test, the art of handing over. There is a final test every founder must face. It does not arrive with ceremony, but with silence. It is the moment when others begin to lead, not by instruction, but by inheritance. The moment when the founder must decide whether to stay or to step aside. Many founders struggle here, mistaking presence for protection. But presence that overstays its purpose becomes interference. To truly hand over is to believe that your stewardship has done its work, that your people, your systems, your successors have absorbed not your power, but your principles. This is the art of handover. To step away without stepping out. To remain not as manager, but as memory, a rhythm embedded within the structure. Because true leadership does not vanish when it departs. It lingers as alignment. The philosophy of Ithaca, building what cannot be taken. We live in a world obsessed with growth, valuation, expansion, scale. But nothing grows forever. What endures is what cannot be taken. Values, virtues, vows. To build Ithaca into others is to prioritize meaning over momentum, conscience over convenience, legacy over leverage. It is to teach that endurance is not achieved by force, but by form. You do not build Ithaca through more construction. You build it through calibration, the deliberate slowing down to protect rhythm from erosion. Because what truly endures is not what you control. It is what remembers you rightly. Closing whisper, the mirror of Ithaca. And so, the founder stands on the shore. The waves now calm, the vessel resting. The hands that once built now still. He does not count the years or measure the storms. He looks upon the horizon and sees in its reflection not distance, but devotion. He whispers softly, not to the sea, but to himself, I am home. Because Ithaca was never waiting for you. She was waiting for you to become. And when you finally stand here, calm, clear, ready, you realize that she has nothing left to give, because she already gave you everything. Patience, discipline, wisdom, rhythm. The vow was never meant to end with you. It was meant to continue through those who heard its echo. And so, you pass it on. Not with command, but with blessing. Because the greatest proof of your journey is not that you arrived, but that you built a harbor where others may one day begin. Demetris, founder and torchbearer,